Your comfort zone is not protecting you. It's suffocating you slowly, quietly, every single day. And the worst part, it feels good while it's happening. That's the trap nobody warns you about. You think you're being safe. You think you're being smart. You think you're just waiting for the right moment. But here's what's actually happening. You're dying, not physically, but something inside you is shrinking. Your dreams, your potential, your fire. Today, I want to talk to you about the most dangerous addiction nobody talks about, the addiction to ease. And if you don't break free from it soon, you'll wake up one day wondering where your life went. I met a man once who had everything figured out. Good job, nice apartment, predictable routine. He told me he was comfortable, said it like it was an achievement. 5 years later, I saw him again, same job, same apartment, same routine. Something had changed in his eyes. The spark was gone. He wasn't living anymore. He was just existing, and he couldn't even explain how it happened. That conversation haunted me because I recognized myself in him. I'd spent years choosing the easy path, the safe option, the comfortable route. And I thought I was being smart. Turns out I was just being scared. Here's what I've learned after studying human behavior for decades. Comfort doesn't protect your future. It steals it, one easy decision at a time, one avoided challenge after another, until you wake up and realize you've built a prison out of your own choices. Growth requires discomfort. There's no way around it. The question isn't whether you'll face hard things, it's whether you'll choose them before life forces them on you. Let me explain what I mean. Let's talk about what comfort actually does to you. On the surface, it seems harmless. You skip the hard conversation because today's been rough. You stay in the job you've outgrown because switching feels risky. You avoid the gym because the couch is right there. Small decisions, easy decisions, comfortable decisions. But here's what nobody tells you. These decisions compound. Every time you choose ease over growth, you're not just making one choice, you're strengthening a pattern, you're training yourself to retreat. You're building a habit of avoidance that gets stronger every single day. Some of you probably don't even notice it anymore. Comfort has become your default setting. You don't consciously choose it, you just drift toward it automatically, and that drift is destroying you. I've watched incredibly talented people waste their potential this way. Not through dramatic failures or obvious mistakes, through the slow erosion of ambition, through 1,000 small surrenders that added up to a lifetime of mediocrity. Let me paint a picture for you. You're 25, you have dreams, big ones. You're going to start that business, write that book, get in the best shape of your life. The future feels infinite, but not today. Today you're tired. Today you just relax. Tomorrow you'll start. Then you're 30. Those dreams are still there, but they're quieter now. You've got responsibilities, bills, obligations. The timing isn't right. Maybe next year. Then you're 40. And somewhere along the way, those dreams stopped being plans and became fantasies. Things you think about occasionally with a strange mix of nostalgia and regret. I could have done that. You tell yourself. I just chose a different path. But you didn't choose a different path. You chose no path. You just drifted. Comfort pulled you along like a current, and you never even noticed you were moving away from everything you wanted. Sound dramatic, maybe. But I've seen this exact pattern play out hundreds of times, and the scariest part is how normal it feels while it's happening. Here's the thing about comfort. It doesn't announce itself as your enemy. It shows up as your friend. It says, you deserve a break. It says, why stress yourself out? It says, you've got plenty of time. And those statements sound reasonable. They sound healthy. They sound like self-care. But there's a massive difference between rest and retreat, between recovery and avoidance, between genuine self-care and comfortable self-sabotage. Rest is what you do after you've pushed yourself. Retreat is what you do instead of pushing yourself. And most people have confused the two so completely that they're retreating constantly while calling it rest. Some of you watching this right now are exhausted, not from working hard, from avoiding hard work. Because avoidance is exhausting in its own way. It takes enormous energy to suppress your ambitions, to silence that voice inside you that knows you're capable of more, to maintain the illusion that you're satisfied with a life that's slowly shrinking. I know because I've been there. I spent years telling myself I was content when I was actually just comfortable. And contentment and comfort are not the same thing. Contentment is peace that comes from alignment, from knowing you're living according to your values, pursuing things that matter, growing into who you're meant to be. Comfort is numbness that comes from avoidance, from choosing ease over meaning, from prioritizing today's pleasure over tomorrow's fulfillment. One fills you up, the other hollows you out. And most people can't tell the difference until it's too late. So why do we keep choosing comfort even when we know it's hurting us? because our brains are wired for survival, not success. Here's what I mean. Your brain evolved to keep you alive. And for most of human history, that meant conserving energy, avoiding risks, and staying with the familiar. The unknown was dangerous. Effort was expensive. Comfort meant safety. Those instincts made perfect sense when we were hunting on the savannah. But they're catastrophically wrong for modern life. Today, the biggest risk isn't the unknown, it's staying stuck. The biggest danger isn't effort, it's atrophy. The biggest threat isn't discomfort, it's the slow death of never reaching your potential. But your brain doesn't know that. Your brain still thinks comfort equals survival, so it pushes you toward ease, toward familiarity, toward the path of least resistance. And unless you actively fight that tendency, you'll follow it right into a life you never wanted. Let me give you an analogy that changed how I think about this. Imagine you're on a boat in a river. The current is pulling you downstream. If you do nothing, if you just sit there, you'll drift. It won't feel like movement because the water around you is moving too. Everything will seem calm, peaceful, comfortable. But you're still going somewhere you didn't choose. To go upstream, toward growth, toward your goals, toward the life you actually want, you have to paddle constantly against the current. It's harder, it's uncomfortable. It would be so much easier to just drift. Most people drift their entire lives and wonder why they ended up somewhere they never wanted to be. The mindset shift is simple to understand, but hard to implement. You have to stop seeing discomfort as a problem to avoid and start seeing it as a signal to follow. Let me say that again because it's important. Discomfort is not a warning sign, it's a growth sign. When something feels hard, that's often your cue to lean in, not pull back. When a conversation feels uncomfortable, that's usually the conversation you need to have. When a path feels challenging, that's probably the path that leads somewhere worth going. I'm not saying all discomfort is good. Obviously, pain that's damaging you should be avoided. But the discomfort of growth, the discomfort of stretching yourself, challenging yourself, becoming more than you currently are, that discomfort is sacred. It's the feeling of transformation. And you should chase it, not flee from it. I remember the exact moment this clicked for me. I was preparing for a presentation that terrified me. Big audience, high stakes, everything in me wanted to back out. Find an excuse, choose comfort, but something made me pause. I asked myself, what does this fear actually mean? And I realized if I wasn't scared, it wouldn't matter. The fear was a signal that this presentation could change things, that it was important enough to be nervous about. That growth was on the other side, so I did it, terrified, underprepared, completely outside my comfort zone. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made, not because the presentation was perfect. It wasn't, because I proved to myself that I could feel the fear and act anyway. That comfort wasn't my master. That's a shift from this is uncomfortable, so I should avoid it, to this is uncomfortable, so it might be exactly what I need. All right, let's get practical. How do you actually break free from the comfort trap? First, make discomfort a daily practice. I know that sounds masochistic, but hear me out. You don't build strength by lifting weights once a year. You build it through consistent, repeated effort. The same is true for your ability to handle discomfort. Start small. Every single day, do one thing that makes you slightly uncomfortable. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Take a cold shower. Start a conversation with a stranger. Speak up at a meeting when you'd normally stay quiet. Exercise when you don't feel like it. The specific action matters less than the pattern. You're training yourself to move toward discomfort instead of away from it. You're rewiring that survival instinct that keeps you stuck. Over time, your comfort zone expands. Things that once terrified you become routine. And you develop a kind of confidence that only comes from repeatedly proving to yourself that you can handle hard things. Second, create forcing functions. Here's a secret about human nature. We're terrible at choosing discomfort in the moment. Our brains will almost always find a reason to take the easy path, so stop relying on momentary willpower. Instead, create structures that force you to grow. Sign up for the race before you're ready to run it. Pay for the course before you feel motivated to take it. Tell people about your goals so you can't quietly abandon them. Commit publicly to things that scare you. These forcing functions work because they remove the choice. Once you've signed up, once you've paid, once you've told everyone, backing out becomes harder than following through. I've used this strategy throughout my career, accepting speaking engagements that terrified me before I felt ready. Committing to book deadlines that seemed impossible, putting myself in positions where growth wasn't optional, it was mandatory. Is it stressful? Sometimes. But that stress is productive. It pushes you beyond what you choose on your own. Third, reframe failure as data. One of the biggest reasons people stay comfortable is fear of failure. They don't try the new thing because they might not succeed. They don't take the risk because they might fall flat on their face. But here's what I've observed after decades of studying successful people. They fail constantly, more than average people, way more. The difference is how they interpret failure. Average people see failure as evidence that they shouldn't have tried. Successful people see failure as feedback for their next attempt. When you reframe failure as data, as information that helps you improve, the stakes of trying drop dramatically. You're not risking your identity or your self-worth. You're just running an experiment. And experiments that don't work aren't failures, they're findings. This shift makes it so much easier to leave your comfort zone because the worst case scenario isn't devastating anymore. It's just another data point on your journey to success. Fourth, audit your inputs. Your environment shapes your choices more than you realize. If everyone around you is comfortable, complacency becomes normal. If your social media feed is full of people living easy lives, ease becomes the standard. If your daily routine has no friction, you'll naturally drift toward more frictionlessness. Take a hard look at what you're consuming. The people you spend time with, the content you watch, the environments you inhabit, are they pushing you toward growth or are they lulling you into comfort? This might mean hard changes. Spending less time with friends who enable your worst tendencies. Unfollowing accounts that make you feel satisfied with mediocrity. Restructuring your day to include challenges instead of just convenience. Your environment is either growing you or shrinking you. There's no neutral. Fifth, connect comfort to cost. Every comfortable choice has a price, but that price is often invisible, paid in the future, in opportunities missed, in potential unrealized. Make that cost visible. When you're tempted to skip the workout, don't just think about today's ease. Think about the body you won't have in 5 years. The energy you won't feel, the confidence you'll lack. When you're tempted to avoid the hard conversation, think about the relationship erosion that happens slowly over time. The resentment that builds, the connection that fades. When you're tempted to stay in the safe job, think about the dreams that die a little more each year. The skills you won't develop, the person you won't become. Comfort always costs something, usually something precious. Make yourself see that cost clearly, and the choice becomes easier. Now, I need to be honest with you about something. Choosing growth over ease is not a one-time decision. It's a daily battle. And some days you're going to lose. You'll know what you should do and choose comfort anyway. You'll set ambitious goals and abandon them when things get hard. You'll have moments of clarity followed by weeks of drift. That's normal. That's human. That's part of the process. The goal isn't perfection. It's persistence. It's getting back on the horse after you fall off. It's choosing growth again after you've chosen ease without drowning in shame about the detour. I've failed at this more times than I can count. I've had periods where I let comfort win completely, where I drifted for months before waking up and realizing what was happening. What matters is the overall trajectory. Are you moving toward growth more often than toward comfort? Are your hard days becoming more frequent than your easy ones? Are you building momentum? Even if there are setbacks, that's the real measure. Not whether you're perfect, but whether you're persistent. And here's something else I need you to understand. The discomfort doesn't fully go away. You don't reach some level of success where growth becomes easy and comfort stops being tempting. The challenges just change. The discomforts evolve. The temptation to retreat shows up in new, more sophisticated forms. But, and this is important, your capacity grows too. Things that felt impossible become manageable. Challenges that would have crushed you become interesting. You develop a kind of resilience that only comes from repeatedly choosing hard over easy. I talked to an ultramarathon runner once, someone who runs 100-mile races through mountains. I asked him if it ever gets easy. He laughed. Easy. No, never easy. But I get stronger, so the hard becomes possible. Then the possible becomes normal. Then I need to find something harder. That's the cycle. Comfort is always there, always tempting, but so is growth. And every time you choose growth, you become someone capable of handling greater challenges. The question is whether you're willing to stay in that cycle, to keep choosing discomfort even when it never stops being uncomfortable. So here's where we are. You have two paths in front of you. You've always had two paths, and every day through 100 small decisions, you're choosing one or the other. Path one is ease. It's comfortable. It's familiar. It feels safe, and it leads absolutely nowhere you want to go. Path two is growth. It's uncomfortable. It's challenging. It feels risky, and it leads to everything you've ever dreamed about. The choice seems obvious when I frame it that way. But in the moment when you're tired, when you're stressed, when the couch is right there and the gym feels so far away, comfort whispers to you. It says you can start tomorrow. It says you deserve a break. It says one more day won't matter. Those whispers are lies, because one day always becomes another day. One more week becomes one more month. And before you know it, years have passed and you're exactly where you were or worse. I want you to imagine two versions of yourself. 5 years from now, there's a version of you who kept choosing comfort, who kept drifting, who kept telling yourself you'd start tomorrow. That version is tired, not from hard work, but from the exhaustion of unfulfilled potential, from knowing deep down that you had more in you and never let it out. But there's another version, a version who started choosing growth today, who leaned into discomfort instead of away from it, who built momentum through daily challenges and consistent effort. That version is alive in a way the comfortable version never could be. Because growth isn't just about achievement, it's about aliveness. It's about becoming who you were meant to be. Which version do you want to meet? The decision isn't made once, it's made every morning when you wake up. Every time you face a choice between easy and meaningful, every moment you feel the pull toward comfort and have to decide whether to follow it or fight it. But it starts now. It starts with this moment. It starts with deciding that comfort will no longer be your master. Your ambition is not dead. I know it feels distant sometimes. I know it's been buried under years of easy choices and broken promises to yourself, but it's still there, waiting, hoping you'll finally choose it over ease. Comfort kills ambition slowly. So slowly you don't even notice until the damage is done. But growth brings ambition back to life, one uncomfortable choice at a time. The path is hard. The path is long. The path will challenge everything you think you know about yourself. But at the end of that path is someone extraordinary, someone you'll be proud to become, someone who didn't settle for a comfortable life when a meaningful one was possible. That person is waiting for you. But they only exist on the other side of discomfort. So what are you going to choose?